Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 123-109 win against the Golden State Warriors. Ryker, it's the NBA Finals and the Toronto Raptors have a 2-1 lead. I'm so ecstatic right now.
Absolutely, Ben. It's good to pull a rare victory on the road in the Oracle Arena. But before we get started, start with the comment of the day. A short one, short, brief, but to the point. Epic Cool Master. On the last video, it's a good one on the reason why Kawhi Leonard is most likely now to stay in Toronto next season. So check that out if you haven't yet. But Epic Cool Master said Game 3 is ours. And like I said, brief, to the point, but that's how it happened, Ben. Klay Thompson out. What else is there to expect? Steph Curry put on a show. The Golden State Warriors really hustled out there. You know, they played their hearts out, really tried to get this game back in their control in the fourth quarter, but the Raptors, they went in there. This is the easiest game that they possibly could have won against the Raptors, the Raptors could have won against such a depleted Warriors team, and they went out there and sealed the deal.
Yeah, they came out, they played, they took advantage of injuries, but, before people, kind of write off this series or this win or the beginning of the series, there's still a lot of great players on this Warriors team. It's not like they're completely depleted of talent. DeMarcus Cousins, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, they're all legitimate all-stars in this league. Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, they're good role players. The Toronto Raptors had to come out, be strong against these players, and the guy that really led the charge tonight was Kyle Lowry. 23 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds from Kyle, 8 of 16 from the field, 5 of 9 from the three-point line. What did you see from Kyle Lowry in this game?
Yeah, I saw Kyle Lowry hustling out there. I want to, though, contradict or counter your point, though. I mean, yes, Iguodala is pretty good, but he's also playing injured. And DeMarcus Cousins only played 19 minutes tonight on 4 points, 1 for 7 from the field. So they're not playing with an amazing team, Ben. They're really playing with Steph Curry. I said he's going to get 30, 40 shots up tonight. They relied on him to get the majority of shots. Jonas Jerebko, I think, was the next guy up, or the next man up in terms of bearing that scoring load. So it was an interesting game to watch. I think fouling, just to completely go on a tangent for a second, I think the refs was just making this game completely unbearable, really, from a spectator standpoint, the amount that they were calling and questionable calls for both teams, both sides. But I like, and to circle back to your point, I like how despite it all, every time that the Warriors clawed back in, you had a guy like Kyle Lowry burying crucial open shots and creating. And that's what the Raptors, their persistence tonight really paid off.
Yep, certainly. Every time, because the Golden State Warriors, right, regardless of who's on the roster, as long as Steph Curry is playing, the gravity that he brings to the game, their potential energy to go on a ridiculous run is always a maximum level. And whenever that started to trigger down a little bit, it was whether it was Kawhi, Danny Green, and for the most part Kyle Lowry, he did the most of these types of shots. They just completely quieted the Golden State Warriors crowd, which usually gets pretty rowdy, especially in the playoffs, but they were completely silenced in this game today. And Kyle Lowry, It's reminiscent of prime Kyle Lowry. You remember the shots that he'd take, those transition threes where he just bang a shot whenever the Raptors needed it. Those were the shots he was hitting tonight. I was dumbfounded by Kyle Lowry's just composure in such a game, where the Raptors need to win one game on the road, and the fact that everyone showed up and played well, I was very happy to see that.
I'll admit to you, Ben, I've underrated the ability for the Warriors to play good defense. Now, of course, they're one of the best team defensive teams in the NBA, and they have been. It makes sense. They've gone to the NBA Finals 5 straight seasons in a row. It's almost unparalleled from any team in recent NBA history, and they're on a trajectory to become one of the greatest NBA teams of all time, right? But with that being said, I feel like the teams that the Raptors have had to overcome on the defensive end, right? The Milwaukee Bucks, huge. The 76ers, a huge team. I just thought that the Warriors would have an easier time with guys like Marc Gasol getting, under the basket shots, and Kawhi Leonard being able to get around defenders and get shots in the key a little more easily in the paint. But they've really had to work for a lot of their points. And what I think that the key difference was from tonight's game and last night's game is they relied on their teammates a lot more. And you could see that everybody was getting shots up. Like you had mentioned, Danny Green getting points, and Marc Gasol getting points, and Pascal Siakam finally returning to form. So I saw a good team play out there tonight.
Yeah, certainly. You bring up the assists. Obviously, Kyle Lowry with 9. Pascal Siakam with 6 assists. Kawhi with 6 assists. Marc Gasol with 4. Fred VanVleet with 2. Pretty well everyone that played, touched the ball. They swung. They got the ball moving, and that was a great sight to see. You brought up the name Danny Green, and he's been struggling throughout this postseason, but tonight, 6 threes for Danny Green, 18 points, 5 rebounds. When Danny Green, the whole season, I remember we talk on the podcast, it seemed like Danny Green never missed a corner 3-point shot throughout the regular season, and it seems like from the Bucks series on, he just couldn't make one. He wasn't capable of making those open corner threes, and finally tonight he got a few going at the beginning of the game. Then he just started hitting those dumb Danny Green threes we see him hit when he's hot, when he's on fire.
Yeah, and it's the same thing as Pascal Siakam in Game 1. Don't expect Danny Green to have a third straight game in a row on 6 for 10, and I believe in the first game. And how many did he hit? 8 threes this game, or at least I think
6 threes tonight.
6 threes. So don't expect to have those shots night in and night out from your guys. But what I would like to expect, and what I think it's actually very possible from Danny Green now that he's playing with confidence, is that he can knock down at least 2 to 3 threes a night, and that's critical for the Toronto Raptors to be able to have the floor spaced out a little bit more when you have guys like Kawhi Leonard trying to get points. Now, he had a really fantastic game, but I felt like this was his toughest night for how much the defense was swarming him and how much he really had to be aggressive in creating a shot.
Yeah, certainly. The shots that Kawhi was hitting, they were all pretty ridiculous shots. The Golden State Warriors, their whole game plan, the whole series has been to shut down Kawhi and hopefully no one else gets going. And unfortunately for them, they loaded the defense on Kawhi, but they still couldn't stop him, and the rest of the starting unit plus Fred VanVleet got going. So shout out to Kawhi for overcoming that. 30 points for Kawhi, 2 blocks, 2 steals, 6 assists, 7 rebounds. This is what we brought him in for. This is why he's a superstar. This is why he's arguably the best player in the NBA. Aside, and his passing was even good tonight. That's his one kind of, flaw, if you so to speak, in his game. He was passing the ball good as well. I was very impressed, and it seemed very quiet as well. It didn't seem like, he was taking over the game. Steph Curry, he had 47, but his 47 is a loud 47 because he hits those behind the back moves over Kyle Lowry with the step back threes from 3 feet behind the line. Kawhi just gets all his buckets in efficient fashion. It's a great sight to see.
Steph Curry, he exaggerates his shots and he celebrates and he looks at the crowd. Yeah. He looks to be an energizing player, whereas Kawhi Leonard, he gets his shots, right? And that's not what it's not the making of it that he gets for energy, or at least not in an external way. It's very internal, his motor that gets him going. But Ben, if you don't mind, could we swing into the segments and then continue the conversation after them? I just want to keep this on a fast track. These games are late, and it is hitting me hard.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Tonight, the Kawhi you do him like that play of the day. Ryker, do you have one in mind?
I would say the Fred VanVleet 3-point shot that iced the game.
Yeah, that shot. Fred VanVleet, he's been getting the ball in the late fourth quarters of a lot of games. He's had to huck up some shots, game by game. In the Bucks series, he banked that one in. I think he banked another one in game 1 of the NBA Finals. And tonight, with Draymond Green running at him, Fred VanVleet gets the ball kicked out to him. Kawhi was double-teamed, so Kawhi throws a horrible pass because obviously he's being doubled, to Fred VanVleet with a second left on the shot clock. He does a little step back, gets set, shoots it, gets bumped by Draymond. The ball seemed to hit the ceiling of the Oracle Arena. It felt like it had so much arc, and it dropped down with a pure swish bomb. That kind of sealed the deal for the Raptors because it was such a clutch shot, such a momentum booster for the team. That was an exciting shot to see.
Absolutely.
But not all plays can be the Kawhi Doom like that play of the day, and some just make you say, oh, geez. And tonight, the oh, geez play of the day, I alluded to it earlier, Steph Curry, he's got the ball on a string. Steph Curry's an amazing basketball player. We mentioned it, 47 points for him tonight, 14 to 31 shooting, 7 assists, 8 rebounds. He really stepped up to the plate tonight for the Golden State Warriors, and no play was more in your face, more made you say, oh, geez, than the double behind the back. Kyle Lowry played good defense, but he still, you're going to step back a little bit when someone hits you with a quick double cross. And he hit a shot from about 2 feet behind the 3-point line, hit the rim a couple times, but bounced in. That definitely made me say, oh, geez, Ryker.
That's fair. I'd swing it over to Serge Ibaka's blocks tonight. He was throwing a block spectacle, but maybe... No, I'm not even going to use that for the next one. So the true Warrior play, we'll continue that here.
think you can take me on?
That's the wrong question.
Oh, yeah? What's the right one?
Do you really want to find out?
I think, well, no, yeah, that properly fits. That's Serge Ibaka, because his parallel, he was guarding DeMarcus Cousins, but I don't think Serge Ibaka, even though he's been playing it the past 2 seasons, is a true center. I think he's more of a power forward, and he's shown a lot of not ambiguity. What's the word? Versatility. That's the proper word. He's shown a lot of versatility in being able to guard smaller players on the offensive end. He's able to. He actually, his perimeter defense, I think, has really elevated a lot this season, and he's shown what he's capable of. And Draymond Green, we've picked on him before for saying he's the best defensive player of all time, but Ibaka was showing him how to be a true rim protector tonight, and doing it without having to flop and draw all these calls and exaggeration. Serge Ibaka just hard-nosed, good positioning, got up there contesting shots, and got his hands on a lot of possessions and had some nasty blocks in the process.
Ryker, there was a party in the Oracle Arena. What type of party was it?
It was a block party, Ben.
It was a block party for Serge Ibaka in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. He was swatting everybody. Anyone that came in the lane, he was doing his Bismack Biyombo impression. It was just a great sight to see. A real true warrior play of the day for Serge Ibaka. But finally, the infamous, the one and only DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award. And I know. Do you have one in mind, Ryker? Because I know you like to give out this award.
I do. Do you have? I feel like you have something you want to say as well, though.
Boogie Cousins, he's getting it from me. He had that great Game 2, kind of surprised everyone, but he kind of reverted back to an injury, kind of a shell of himself in Game 3. I don't know if you had another one in mind.
Well, he's part of it. If you really look at DeMarcus Cousins, he's the biggest guy out there on the court when he is on the court. That includes Marc Gasol. He is taller than Marc Gasol, it seems, and he's definitely heavier.
Definitely big, yeah.
And watch his game. I don't know if you've picked up on it. I'm sure lots of people have. But any possession where there's contact, he'll fall. He exaggerates his call, and I think that it's time for the refs to step up and look at flopping in this series, because the Warriors, a lot of them are playing a game where they're exaggerating calls, they're exaggerating, charges like that they're trying to take, and I think it's a big part on the referees. I think one, they're playing at points, they're calling too much. They're calling bad hand checks. Now I know you're technically not allowed to do hand checks. They're calling little bumps, a lot of momentum killers, a lot of things that just isn't really fun as a fan to watch, and I
ruins the flow of the game.
Exactly, it ruins the flow of the game. And then there's times where they're not calling really blatantly obvious things that should be called, that are really ruining each team's chance to build a legitimate run. So I think that the referees, maybe I'm being a little bit too hard, but what I'm seeing is really a lackluster performance out there, and I've noticed that in all 3 games so far. And it's not that I'm saying that they're biased towards the Warriors or they're biased towards the Raptors. I think for the most part the calls have been even. I just think that they're so disruptive and they're so unnecessary. I mean, Draymond Green, he should have gotten a technical 3 or 4 times over. I think there's just a lot of nonsense that I think that the referees should really crack down on. They get my DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award.
No, that's 100% fair. And, to kind of expand on the Boogie Cousins thing, and a player that we didn't really talk about, we have to talk about, Marc Gasol in this game as well. He looked aggressive, and on the defensive end, he shut down all of the... Because, Marcus Cousins didn't have the hugest game scoring-wise in Game 2, but the way he impacted the game, just his ability to ball handle and pass, it really killed the Toronto Raptors. And, Serge Ibaka with his blocks, and Marc Gasol with his positioning defense, on top of Gasol's, ability to make Boogie work on defense with 17.7 rebounds, 4 assists. I was really happy with the way Gasol played, Siakam played. Our bigs really outplayed the Golden State Warriors, and it offset the Steph Curry phenomenal performance that he had tonight.
Absolutely, Ben. Now, to finish off this podcast, this is where my optimism ends, unfortunately, for the Toronto Raptors. I predicted the Warriors in 5, and obviously that's impossible now. The Raptors have won 2 games, but I could not have foreseen that Klay Thompson would go down. It's expected in Game 4 that likely the entire ensemble will be back, and I think that this is going to be a very big... my favorite expression now for the playoffs, a big punch in the face for the Toronto Raptors. Do you have any hope that they could win the next game or even the third game in the Oracle Arena?
Well, okay, so if we're under the assumption that everyone's back.
Well,
okay, because
I'm pretty sure Durant is confirmed back for Game 4.
Okay, so if they're not back, I think we can have another game like this, right? But if the whole ensemble is back, Clay, KD, and all them, I look at Game 2, and I brought this up a little bit in the Glimmer of Hope video, but I see that the Golden State Warriors in Game 2 had an offense that they won't be able to outperform. Yes, they're harder to guard with Kevin Durant in the lineup and Klay Thompson, but with Steph Curry's efficiency, Klay Thompson's efficiency, Draymond Green hitting shots, Quinn Cook hitting, ridiculous shots, the role players knocking down everything, other players stepped up in that game. I think they maxed out their sort of offense. Yes, if KD is dumb and there's some wild stuff, no one's going to stop them if they're firing on all cylinders. But if they have a good game for their respective talents, I think the Toronto Raptors can manage them on the defensive end, and they'll have a similar performance to the one they had on Game 2. Right? I don't see them having a much better offensive performance, despite the fact they have stronger players, because I don't think everyone will be able to step up without the amount of touches they had. So I think the Toronto Raptors, they only lost that game by 5 points, Ryker. They're one Kawhi fingertip steal away from winning that game. So I think if the Toronto Raptors could hit shots like they did tonight, or even not at the same level as they did tonight, but at a relatively decent level, the same way they've been playing since Game 2 of that Bucks series, and play the same defense they did in Game 2, I think we can beat the fully healthy Golden State Warriors. I'm sticking with my prediction. I picked 6 because I wasn't sure about the health. I thought if the Warriors weren't healthy, we'd win in 5. If the Warriors were healthy, we'd win in 7. So I'm sticking with 6 just because I don't know the side of health of things for the Golden State Warriors, and that still can hold true, but I remain having faith in the Toronto Raptors.
Then, fans, listeners, that is a good argument, and I really like the point that you bring up that maybe they have reached their offensive potential. Maybe we've seen the most, so it really becomes, can the Raptors keep up with the offense?
Yep.
Because they've shown displays where they're able to do that, and they've shown that they can throw defensive sets at the Warriors, which can slow them down in a way that really seems uncharacteristic for the Warriors, that you're used to being able to score at any sort of way. So do you guys think, everybody that's listening, do you think it's possible with Durant being inserted back into the lineup, with the possible return of Klay Thompson? I don't know if it really matters that much. If you put, 2 great superstars back in the lineup, then the Warriors is completely different than the team that they played tonight. But It's interesting. It's a good point to bring up. So I think that's really it for tonight's game, but it is going to be an exciting Game 4. Completely different.
Ryker, the Toronto Raptors are 1 game away from being 1 game away. And I cannot be more excited for the rest of this series. Anyways, you guys are the best for making this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. We have the IG lives happening every halftime, or pretty well most of them. So definitely follow us on there. The Twitter, that's always blowing up. We really appreciate your support. Do you have any last words, Ryker?
Game 4, baby. Game 4. Cheers.
Game 4.